Welcome, everyone. My name is Tomer Diari. I am a general partner at Aleph, and I'm excited to welcome you today to this vertical software playbook event. We hope that you will, maybe learn something new about vertical software and learn from the wonderful panel we have here about what tactics worked best for their companies, and B, get to know fellow operators and entrepreneurs within vertical software. Let me tell you a bit about Aleph before we get started. Aleph is an early stage venture capital firm operating here in Tel Aviv. We invest in early stage technology companies in Israel across all sectors and all categories. We're quite fond of vertical software. And over the past few years, we've invested in 5 companies, including Honeybook, Agora, Workiz, Fullpath, and Freightos. And we are excited to continue to support the next generation of vertical software entrepreneurs coming out of Tel Aviv. With me today in the panel are Bar Mor. Bar is the co-founder and CEO of Agora. It's a vertical software company in the real estate industry. Bar grew up learning about the real estate industry from a very young age. And together with his 2 co-founders that he met in Unit 8200, they've decided to launch Agora straight out of college to capitalize on his founder market fit. We have Raviv Schwarz. Vered is the COO and president of Guesty, a vertical software company in the hospitality space. Vered started her career as a corporate lawyer and had previously held senior operations roles at Fiverr, Kenshu, MediaMind, and Radware. And then finally, we have Amos Haggiag. Amos is the co-founder and CEO of Optibus, a vertical software company in the transportation sector. Before starting Optibus, Amos pursued a career in R&D and held several senior engineering roles at Microsoft, Quality, and Siemens. These are the best of the best when it comes to vertical software in Israel, and we're here to primarily learn from them. Cool, I'm going to get started with a question to the 3 of you, and it's going to be about TAM. So we all know that the total addressable market is a very big deal in vertical markets. And I'd love to hear from you about your markets and the way your thinking and analysis of your TAM has evolved over time. Vered, why don't you get started?
Okay. So in our case, what Guesty does is provide a very robust software platform, end-to-end software platform for short-term rentals, or I may say short and mid-term rentals. Short-term is anything up to 30 days. Mid-term is 32 a year. And we provide a lot of tools around that. So when it comes to defining the TAM, the question is, what is our addressable market? And there are a few ways to look at it. Because in the short-term rental sector, there are also a few segments, right? There are the small hosts. If you have one Airbnb that you're operating, those could be our customers. It could be a professional host hosting anything from 5 properties to a few hundreds of properties. And it could be what we call the enterprise customer, is a big hospitality brand hosting thousands of properties. So when we look at our TAM, we look at each of these segments TAM. And if you combine all of them together, you get to the TAM of short-term rentals is about $250 billion in bookings of customers. Of course, then we have to translate how much are they spending on software. You get to around $30 billion in total addressable market just for that segment. You can break it out into the different subsegments. You can also look at the adjacent markets of real estate, long-term rentals, that's $1 trillion market, and hotels, which is also an adjacent market, $550 billion. So altogether, we can say that the software for those verticals starts anywhere from 30, but can get to 80 or even $100 billion just in the software. So when you talk to investors, it's really about defining not only the current opportunity, but also the future opportunity of your TAM.
Big market.
Yeah.
Amos, also a big market.
Yeah, so today when we look at Optibus, we see we are building, I would say we're still not there even, but like an operating system to run public transit, right? So when you think about bus companies, rail companies, ferries, anything that moves people around in cities, we are the platform behind the scenes to do that. When we started Optibus 10 years ago, we started from a very specific product, which was around scheduling, which is in a way, if you take a city like Tel Aviv or like London, and you have the network of the city, so you know what buses are, you know what rail system there is and so on. How do you schedule the vehicle and drivers to do those assignments in the most efficient way? It's a lot about trying to do it in the most cost-efficient way and so on. Over time, we've seen what I would say I got to learn in every vertical SaaS company is that because every vertical SaaS is addressing a market that is in a way limited, right? If you are Salesforce or let's say Monday, almost every company in the world is a potential customer. For vertical SaaS, you're only looking at a very specific vertical, which can be large. And I think one of the only ways to really create a big company in that market is to expand your product offering to eventually, like Veret said, as like the entire full suite of solution. So we started from scheduling. Today, Optibus is used to plan the entire network of cities, where the route will go, what will the frequency, should this bus go every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, where the route should go at night, the day, what should be the real time, if there is a traffic jam, what do we do, control room, product, like the entire offering. And then I think the way to look at it is a bit different than if you look at horizontal SaaS. You usually say, okay, what's the size of the HRIS systems, right? You'll measure it. I think we are looking at it a bit differently, and we're saying what's the size of the industry. And public transport industry is about $1.5 trillion. And I'm saying the industry is more important because the product will change all the time, and we'll add more and more product. So then the second question, okay, how much of that industry is going to be captured by software? And what we've seen from vertical SaaS and also from industry is usually about 1%. Depends on the size of the industry and what type of industry, but in our case, 1.5 trillion, 1% is what we currently see as an addressable market.
Just if I may add to that, the 1%, at our market, if we look at our suite of products, it could be anything from 0.5% to 4% because it really depends how much of your modules are you selling to those.
I think it really depends on the industry. Our industry is very low margin industry. So most of the costs go into paying drivers, putting rail infrastructure, buying buses. It could be like companies where their margin is like 4%, 5%. So that's positive. On the other end, it's quite a large industry.
Big market. Val?
First, it's great to be here, so hi everyone, and thanks Tomer. So for us, Agora, we built an investment management software for real estate companies. We basically work with real estate funds and investment managers, and we help them streamline all of their back office and investor relation efforts. We started from, you can call it like an advanced CRM that is designed for the real estate industry. When you think about our product like that, then the TAM is really like not meaningful enough, maybe like 2 billion. At the end of the day, like it's a niche, like real estate investment management, it's a niche, and providing them only with this type of CRM, it's not that meaningful. But as everyone said, the idea is to really layer on additional product lines and really become this one-stop shop that companies can consume and get other type of services or offerings. Something that was mentioned here a lot is the word software. And what I want to also say is that it doesn't necessarily have to only be software, right? Like we are also selling payments services. We started to also sell tax services. So we found other ways to basically use software in order to automate, streamline, offer other types of, again, product offerings that aren't necessarily just software. And then you can, like each one of them, when you take it and you basically say, okay, so let's say the CRM piece is 2 billion, but then the payments, how much money is being transacted in the real estate space, how much can I charge or we charge at Agora out of that, and you get like, 10x your TAM. And then you think about another product line, which is, again, in our case, tax. And we are helping them to automate and streamline their tax filings. Boom, another 10x the TAM. So for us, it's very hard to put a number on the exact TAM. But I think it was very clear from the get-going that if we will really become the system of record for investment management in real estate, And if we become the system that these companies are actually using to automate all of their processes and to streamline their payments, it was very clear that the TAM is very, very large. And we are still learning it as we go.
Okay. Recurring theme is go after big TAMs. The goal of every vertical software company is to reach market leadership and ideally a semi-monopoly status in their market. Your respective companies are at different stages along that path. And I'd love to hear from you about the biggest obstacle you're either facing now or have faced trying to get to that status or keep it. And Vered being the farthest along.
Okay. So first of all, I've been at Guesty for 6 years now. So when I joined, we were 80 people selling less than $10 million. And now we're 850 people selling above $100 million. So there was quite a journey there. So when I think we kind of had a funny moment when we acquired a company about 2 years ago, Kiga, that when I joined was the biggest competitor. So that was our biggest threat. 6 years ago, this company that was more solid than us, had, great investors, was just acquired. And I think that's one of the ways to kill competitors is have them acquired by PEs, and then they start kind of, so that's what happened in our case. So when we started, it was, we were still early stage in the market. It was a very early day for short-term rentals, kind of starting to be defined with Airbnb 12 years ago. So even 6 years ago, it was a very young market. There were a lot of players, hundreds of niche companies doing a lot of software pieces for this market. And our strategy was to go big from the outset. When I say go big is go after different segments of the market in different geographies. Some of our competitors chose to start in a certain country, so do just US or just Spain or just Australia, or go just for the enterprise clients or just for the small clients. And we said, and it is a risk, right? But we said we're going to go after everybody, everywhere, in all shapes and sizes. Of course, putting more expertise on the mid-market, not the small ones and not the big ones, which was a big market and easier to catch, and then start expanding upwards towards the enterprise and downhill towards the small customers. But we've started offering the software globally, not starting with just US, starting with online sales, and that allowed us to expand rather quickly. And then once we had our roots in different locations and different segments, started to expand from there. Some of our customers remained in one geography or one segment and couldn't grow as fast as we couldn't attract the international investors we attracted. So that was definitely one of our ways to grow. I'll pause here to let my esteemed colleague.
And we're going to talk about geography expansion soon enough. Amos?
Yeah, so we talked about addressable markets, and we see $1.5 trillion of industry size. But one of the challenges, at least in public transit, is a very local market. It's every city in the world. It's actually bigger in places that are a bit less developed and relies on public transport more than cars. If you have a cyber company, you can target the US only and get to like meaningful size and revenue and so on. In public transport, US is a relatively small market. It's about 100 billion, which is considered small. Places like Brazil or Hong Kong and so on could be bigger than the US just because the usage of public transit is much bigger. So like the mention of geographical expansion, I would say for our case, it was mandatory. Like if we built Optibus only for the US, like many companies are doing, or only for the UK or a few or 2 or 3 countries, would have been way smaller than we are today. Second issue is that in the end, we are providing a mission critical system. So if Optibus doesn't work, public transit stops working. And that's like a headline in the news, and it's really bad news. You don't want to be in that situation, which also means that customers don't want to be in that situation, which means that it's not easy for them to choose a product that is mission critical, even if it's way better. Just taking a product like that by itself is a risk, which means that you need a lot of proof points until you can get to that deal. On the flip side, you have very good retention, like we are 98%, 99% gross retention, because customers, when they choose the product, they are staying for many, many years. And then I would say the last thing is that competitors, 70% of Optibus customers choose Optibus as their first digital solution, which means before that, it was all on Excel file, pen and paper. That's the way they plan public transit on a map. They're drawing it. They move like things on a board, really like that. And then the other 30% is usually local competitors. Like if we sell in Spain, we compete against a Spanish company. In Italy, against an Italian company. In the UK, we come with much better product, but in the end, they've been there for 40 years. In a way, it's sometimes easier to displace those systems than replace pen and paper because it's complete transformation of a business. So those I would say like the main challenges of Optibus. Now that we go into about 35 countries, we're actually doing a bit of the opposite and doing a process of how we focus. What are the countries that we think we can really go versus like expanding to more and more countries.
Well done. We're going to shift gears and move on to talk a bit about product. And as everyone here knows, right, the best vertical software companies leverage a cross-selling motion. And it's a key strategy that often gets described as building a layer cake of solutions. All of you mentioned product expansion earlier when discussing TAM. I wonder how and when did you first approach building a second product and broadening the suite, and what additional products worked best for you? And Bar, you get to go first.
I think for us, the first product or the second product that we've launched was about a year after the first one. Like we had a core SaaS product, and then we added on another product around tax filings. We've tried two, actually. We've tried payments and we've tried tax. I think something that we've learned is that you should try and pick product that it's going to be the easiest to essentially to offer. And if you can do it with, like for example, with the tax product, we managed to get to about $1 million in ARR without a line of code. Okay, how? Because of partnerships, because of automation, using existing products. You don't want your second product to be another core product that when you're starting, you still need and all of the R&D resources, right? Like it's limited, it's very limited. And so I think try to think about things that are recurring by their nature. Try to think about things that are going to be an easy sell, right? Try to think about things that can take, for example, again, with the tax product, we can take a customer that, let's say, 20K customer, ACV, and grow it to a 60K, right? So something that is meaningful, something that really adds on significant percentage, right, in the NDR, and not something that is small. And again, something that you can actually build an MVP and leverage partnerships in order to execute on it, and not something that will take you another complete R&D department to build. I think these are the main things that we used when we started these things.
Amos, do you remember when you started broadening out the suite? What was the second product?
I think, so we started from scheduling, as I said before, but almost from day one, we understood that we have to go like full suite of products. Just because every time you try to displace a system, then, okay, you don't do this and that, and Optibus really cannot be used to do like a feature. So it was really clear from the beginning that we have to go full suite. Now, it was really, I would say, not what we wanted to do, because we started from, so Optibus started really from really strong algorithmic kind of like an engine that optimized, that can take a city and optimize the entire city transportation. It had like state-of-the-art ways of doing that in real time and machine learning of learning patterns and mobility. It was really cool tech. And then we saw, okay, but in order to really build an operating system, you need to do like databases of drivers and their names and their and do payroll and do things that are a bit more boring in a way. Today, I would say we put innovation in all of those, but it in the end, like we had to go full suite to all these products, and it's hard. It was a bit easier to build a product in the beginning because you build the company and the product in the same time. We started, you said you started from mid-market, right, and grew to enterprise. We actually started from enterprise. Our first customer was Agora in Israel, which is the biggest public transit company in the country. It's also, Agora is also quite big globally. If you compare it to a public transit company globally, it's quite large. And then our first customer in the US was the biggest public transit company in the US. First customer in Europe was the biggest in the UK. which means that it comes with like 1,000 requirements. And it's really, really hard. But I think the benefit is that once you build a product this way, it really works for like the entire market, and you learn through customer what is really important.
It's mostly a journey to product completeness then.
Yeah. But now we're building a product that it took us a few years, and we already launched it, but way, way harder when you have 500 customers to build a product that you can use with 500 customers. It was way easier when it's like 3 or 4 customers, then build it feature by feature. That's the main challenge that we are facing now, is like how do you onboard to the customer new product?
That, as we look at the product suite at Guesty, you guys have also successfully incorporated a third-party marketplace. And that one both worked for your growth potential, but also impacted advantages and strategies within your model. Can you elaborate on the decision to go into marketplace and how that fits into vertical software and the other product suite you have?
Sure. So just to give you some more color on that, very early in our life cycle, we started creating a marketplace for the ecosystem around us. So that would be all kinds of integrations and plugins based on the really strong APIs that we've built. And it could be a dynamic pricing solution. It could be all kinds of channels, distribution channels. It could be specific software for the needs of a specific geography, okay? Like authorization reporting, which is something required in Southern Europe. So we started that because it helps us, bridge product gaps by using partners, right? So for certain geographies or for certain clients. It also helped us become a thought leader and a central player in our ecosystem. A lot of partners were connected to us. And it also allowed us the perfect, buy, build, partner playbook, right? Because we had all these partners coming to us, being a part of our marketplace. Today, as you mentioned, we have 200. And then we could understand what are customers looking for, what's interesting, what's making a lot of money, and then figure out, should we buy that partner on the marketplace? Should we actually build something similar because we know how to build it and it will be much cheaper? Or should we just stay with them as a partner because it's not worthwhile to integrate it into our core system? And we've executed it quite successfully. And in some cases, we've decided to buy. In some cases, we've decided to build. But it really helped us even plan a roadmap of adjacent products and complementary upsells by really understanding the ecosystem around us.
Took inspiration from Salesforce.
Yeah, we always say we took a page from the Salesforce Playbook, done a lot of similar things, including sometimes building products that are competitive to products on our marketplace and giving our customers the freedom of choice, right? They could choose to use our software or use the product that's sold on the marketplace.
Love it. That's the benefit of vertical software, right? You dominate the industry and they have to follow your rules, and the rules favor you.
Yeah, and by the way, when we started off, it was free. Now we take a very hefty commission from all the marketplace partners, and it's an additional revenue stream for us.
Expansion everywhere. Cool. Let's move on to discuss pricing. So you all have a robust product suite. How do you handle pricing and packaging and maybe tiering of these different products across different customers to do price differentiation? Bar?
Yeah, so I think something that I hear from early stage founders that I meet with sometimes, it's they're thinking about, okay, let's provide the first core product free of charge, or maybe in a very cheap. Yeah, because again, the next layer, the payments or the data or whatever it will be, that's where we make the money. I'm a big believer that you should not do it. I think that you need to charge money for the core product as well. Whether or not, again, the next few the products are going to be bigger in terms of like the time and the opportunity, you need to charge money for the core product. You want your customers to have commitment, and you want to have something that get the wheel going, right? So that you'll have actually, again, you'll be able to raise capital to build these additional product lines. Now again, there are thousand ways to get to Rome, but That's what I've seen that is the most successful across multiple industries. Now, if we discuss about tiering and packaging, and the nice thing about having multiple products is that you can actually start to play with these things. So, for example, you can discount one product if they'll try another one. You can bundle the two if they'll sign up for like 2 or 3 years. So the way that we do it is really leveraging that as part of the negotiation tactics. And as an example, so when we launched this additional tax product, we saw that it's very hard to penetrate with it because customers already had an existing provider that they worked with. So then what we've done, we said, okay, so you know what? We are going to waive your setup fee. As an example, let's say we charge X for setup fee. We are going to waive your setup fee if you'll try us, if you'll try the other product. So for you, essentially, it's like a zero-sum game, right? Because if you won't try the other product, you'll have to pay the setup fee. And that way, we actually had like a foot in the door. And then when they actually start to use the product, then it's much easier to do another upsell and show them the value and expand from there. So I think we look at it as very like business-oriented negotiation, and we try a lot of stuff. We've tried multiple stuff, and we saw what works, what doesn't work, and then you just double down on the things that do work.
Love it. Never offer anything for free. Maybe discounts. Vered?
We had quite a transition in our pricing during the years. We started off with a commission base because we kind of followed Airbnb, right? So a commission of bookings, which was great, but not very stable, very seasonal. When I joined, I started really moving the company to fixed pricing. We charge a fixed pricing per listing. So just like seats at Salesforce, we have a fee per listing per month. So if you have more properties, you pay us more. You have less properties, you pay us less. But then to complement that, a lot of our upsells are actually transactional or commission-based. And that gives us the balance of enjoying the upside from the high season or customers that are growing and making more money, but still having that stability of the base price that never goes down. So that way we know that we do have some seasonality in the transactional piece, but have a stable projection regarding our core pricing. So when it comes to fintech product, it's transactional. When it comes to, now we have our own dynamic pricing tool, it's transactional, but the basic software is fixed.
Okay, let's shift gears and discuss go-to-markets. So many of the people here in the crowd have already established product market fit and are currently scaling their go-to-market organization. How should vertical software companies approach building a sales and marketing engine, hiring salespeople, partnering with partners and resellers, etc.? We'll start, I guess, with Amos.
Sure. First, I will say that vertical software tends to be very professional. I think like if you're selling an HR system or Salesforce or any horizontal, you can quickly like get up to speed about the product and sell it. If you sell a system to run a public transit company, or if you sell a system to, I don't know, manage, let's say, electricity companies, you have to be like super expert in what the company is doing. People are going and they're studying for years about urban planning and how to plan transportation, and you need people that knows it really well. So what we found is that on one hand, you have to have those experts, these transit geeks in our world, the people that really, really passionate about public transit. They learn that, they know it really, really well. We try to bring them from the industry. So we are bringing people to our sales team or pre-sales team that are the buyer, that been in the position of the person that they're selling to. On the other end, it's very hard to find someone who work at a public transit company and is also like a really good salesperson of SaaS solutions, right? So it needs to complement. We've also, I would say, standard SaaS playbook kind of people that came from companies like Salesforce and so on. Then last thing I would say is that what we found is I think it's really important to build the sales organization in the right way, okay, in the right playbooks and the right systems in place and the right leadership in place and the right structure very early on. We went through several reorganizations that were super painful in the company. just because the company is very large and every reorg that may sound small on paper becoming very painful. So for those of you who are like earlier stage, I would say, hire your CRO, build your playbooks, put system in place and RevOps in place as early as, not very early, but like way before you get to 300, 400 people. And then the combination between that and the industry, for us, super important.
Bar, what do you think?
I think you need to understand and know your customer, right? So in your case, as you said, it's like very important to have a lot of deep knowledge and expertise in the field. In our space, as an example, so we've seen that real estate guys are makers, right? And so you don't necessarily need someone from the real estate. You also don't necessarily need someone that have like SaaS background, but you need someone that will be able to come and sit like in these whatever Zoom or meetings and be a maker like them, right? So we found like the most successful, again, salespeople, not necessarily from Salesforce or not necessarily from, again, the real estate, but I have two people that sold Kramim.
Like Dead Sea products.
Yeah, exactly, like this type of guys from Agalot, right? Like they are makers, they know how to handle these guys. And they are the most successful salespeople that I have, right? So,
Right?
So we really understand who we were selling to, what will speak best for them, and then, again, play with that.
Then what's working for Guesty? You have a machine now.
We have a machine, but it's a complicated machine. And to your question, there isn't really one playbook for go-to-market for SaaS products because it really depends on the product and the persona, right? So in our case, we have 3 different personas. There's Guesty Lite for the small hosts. It's product-led growth, self-sign-on. So it's really about building the marketing machine to create the leads, to bring to that machine and feed it, and the conversion, which is more of a product play. Then our, I'd say, mid-size customers, a lot of it is online sales. So it's the classic lead generation, then SDRs qualifying the leads, scheduling demos, doing online demos, and selling. That's the advantage of, I'd say it's not B2C, it's B2 SMB, okay? Which means that you don't need super qualified salespeople. It's online, it's a quick sell relatively, and you don't have to expand and have people on the ground in all locations. You can do everything online from 1 or 2 locations. Then we have the larger and the enterprise clients. There you do need the boots in the ground, you do need the expertise. We did find that in many cases, people coming from the hospitality industry, understanding what it means to manage a hospitality brand, are very successful salespeople. And some of our field sales teams are from that kind of background. But yes, that's a longer sales cycle. You need people on the ground. You need to have the people in the geographies that you want to focus on and build from there. So really, when you start thinking about your go-to-market, think about your customer, what's the sales cycle appropriate for that customer, and build your sales organization around that. And you can also start, again, we started from online, and then when we expanded and moved up market, we started creating the sales force on the ground in different locations. It's not just sales, it's customer success, it's the post-sales teams as well to continue and retain and upsell to those customers.
As we talk about go-to-market, Amos, your case is kind of unique because you're selling a complete suite to both enterprise and government customers. How do you handle these 2 different go-to-market motions and manage these different sales cycles across the 2 segments?
Yeah, so today about 20-25% of our revenue customers coming from B2G. So in public transit, if you look at the city, you have the Egged, the Dan, the operators. Those are the private companies. Those are most of the business that we do. And then you have the city itself, or the Ministry of Transportation, or the Department of Transportation, or something statewide, or city, and so on. And that's the government side. Now, the government or the city is responsible usually for planning. What will be the network in my city, putting more routes, putting more stops, things like that. And then the operator is responsible for really operating the service as efficient as possible. We started from operators, which was B2B, and I would say even B2 enterprise, mostly because we don't do really small self-serve type of deals. Every deal we do is quite large and and requires long sales cycle implementation, so on. Like we do this type of project. We started from that and then shifted more towards B2G. Now, in many cases, we have in the same city both customers. Los Angeles is one example where we have the DOT of LA as a customer and the operator as a customer, and they're both interfacing together. And this kind of dynamic helps us quite a lot in go-to-market. If the city
collaborate on
and
Optibus?
They collaborate on some things, because sometimes the operator doesn't want the city to see their financial data, things like that, but they collaborate on the network. And it definitely helps in the go-to-market. In the LA case, LA bought Optibus, the city, the DOT of the city, and then they issue an RFP for operators. So basically they're saying, who wants to operate public transport in LA? That's not an RFP for us, that's an RFP for bus companies, which is billions of dollars worth of operating public transport in such a city. And if you want to operate, you need to use this system. So that helps you with
I saw that RFP. They don't say you got to use Optibus.
They don't say
you
the
got to
word
use the
Optibus.
software, the Optibus.
They don't say in that case, they don't say Optibus. In other cases, they do say the name Optibus. In that case, they say a cloud-based scheduling planning system.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You get them to do the selling for you.
You get them doing selling for you. And I will just say that in the beginning, it was really hard for us to sell to the government side. Years, we didn't sell one deal. We only sold to the private side. And I think what helps us crack it is that when you sell to a private company, they care about the bottom line. So you show them, if you use Optibus, you can reduce your expenses. If you use Optibus, you can increase revenue, things like that. That was our whole sale process was based on that. If you sell to a government, it's a lot about risk. Who else is using you in the same region? I would say even in the same state. Who is using you in Florida? So it took some time to get, okay, we need these initial references. They have to be very local. But then now, I would say now B2G could be much more attractive than B2B. Long-term deals, 5 to 10 years, very high pricing, budget is not an issue. You have an RFP, and RFP is very clear cycle. So it takes time, but at least you know exactly when you get awarded. Everything is clear and structured. It's not like the decision can get longer and longer. So I would say now it's more, we would even prefer in some cases B2G.
Incredible. Okay. Bar, at Agora, you are targeting customers of varying sizes. And you operate with both very small developers that do things project by project, and also with very large institutional real estate funds. How do you move up markets to gradually capture a bigger market share while maintaining the long tail of small developers and not losing them to an ankle-biter competitor?
So I think for us, again, we started from the SMBs, and I completely agree with Vera that you the mid-market, that's where we started. The smaller one are too small sometimes, and they just make headache, and they don't pay, and they churn, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And the larger guys, they have so much requirements. So I don't know how you've done it. It's amazing, but they have so many requirements that it's very hard to deliver on these things. And each customer in these bigger guys have his own integration and have his own structure and the specific things that he care about. And so it was very challenging, and that's why we focused on the mid market. And it played very well. Obviously, as you get bigger, and especially in vertical SaaS, you want to be the de facto platform for the entire market, right? From small to medium to large groups. And we started to go more up and up market. And it's a balance, right? I don't have a simple answer. It's a balance that you need to maintain, being able to always serve these, small to medium-sized customers, while also penetrating the larger guys. It's also all about relationship at the end of the day, especially with the large companies, all about relationship when you build that rapport and that trust, and they actually feel like they are invested in the company, invested in the vision. Then it's much easier, and even if things takes time, even if there are bugs, even if you don't really meet deadlines, they forgive. So I think that's also a big thing.
Okay. Last question. Vertical software companies lend themselves especially well to M&A, to mergers and acquisitions. And I'd love to hear from you about your M&A strategy, especially comparing the M&A initiatives for product expansion versus the M&A initiatives for inorganic growth and consolidation. Vered, we'll start with you.
Okay, we've acquired 7 companies until today, and our main 2 theses are indeed A, product expansion, and B, customer acquisition. When it comes to customer acquisition, we need to understand that it's a CAC play, right? You need to understand that the cost of acquiring that competing company in Spain, for example, makes sense in terms of the number of customers, or in our case, we even look at listings, right? How many properties are we acquiring through that acquisition? You also need to understand if it's compatible. So is the price tag similar to what you're charging? Because if you're acquiring a company and they charge 1/10 of your pricing, it's not a good deal, right? Because you can't really migrate them into your software. So we're looking at the location, the pricing, and of course then the team and how easy it's going to be to actually migrate those customers over to your platform is the way to look at it. When it comes to the product side, as we grow and have a large development team, usually it's now cheaper for us to develop than to acquire, but we always still look at time to market. So for example, if we have a really good product, and I'll give you an example. When we started Guesty Lite, our product for the small hosts, we actually acquired a company that's done it already, that has a product just for the smaller hosts. We acquired them, repackaged them as Guesty for Host, and eventually, only after 2 years, finally developed it in-house and migrated fully to the Guesty platform. But we knew it's going to take us 2 years to strip down a self-service product for the smaller hosts. We preferred to acquire them and start within a few months to sell. So that was the deal there. On the other hand, for dynamic pricing, we looked at a few vendors out there on our marketplace as well. And looking at the multiples they wanted and the time to market it would take us to actually create a product, we said, okay, in 6 months we could have a decent product and not pay as much just for that market share that they've acquired so far, and decided to build. So we always really check what's the time to market, how strong is the product that we're acquiring, and what is the competitive advantage that we'll gain by adding it to a product suite.
So an acquisition's down, more to go?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, we'll meet again in a year, we'll see. Amos?
We did 2 acquisitions. One we didn't announce yet, so...
Congratulations.
Spoiler.
You just
announced
announced
it.
You'll hear about it. Both of them were product focused. So we look at where Optibus today, we look at what public transit agency or company needs to operate. There are elements that we're going to build, elements we're going to partner, the elements that we think it's better to acquire. It will take us a lot of time. There are companies that already proven the market. In both of these cases, there were very small companies, very regional, so they had a product with relatively not a lot of revenue, so we didn't buy them for the revenue, we didn't buy them for the customers. They're only in 1 or 2 countries, but by integrating into Optibus, we can expand them globally and see the synergies with using Optibus Salesforce and marketing, and integrating the product in a way where the holistic product brings a lot of value. I would say the challenge, I think, that sometimes overlooked is integration of the company. We had 2 different integrations, so I can tell you from our experience. The first one was, and that was the first acquisition we did, a company in the US. We said, hey, there is a company, they work, it works, 10 years or something. Let's, in the beginning, don't touch it. Maybe just integrate the payroll and things like that, but they will still have their own R&D team and their own sales team, and over time we'll start integrating because we don't want to disrupt the way that they work. What we learned over time is that employees are confused. Hey, we've been acquired by this great company. For them, it's like the big company that acquired us. We want to be like them. We want to be in their R&D. We want to have their product processes and have their sales team and marketing, and they know much better than us and why we are not part of this company. So the second acquisition we did was completely from almost day one, fully integrated. R&D moved to the R&D team, product moved to the R&D team, sales, part of the sales. And that, for us, works better. It's only two data points, so I don't know if it's like something to learn, but from our experience, definitely we prefer doing it this way.
Yeah, M&A is usually value destructive, especially for public companies. But if you can crack the code and just repeat, trade growth. Bar.
We just had our first acquisition about a week ago. We announced it. We did, yeah.
Mazal tov.
We've done it a few months ago, but we've announced it last week. I think what I'll say is that there are different ways to think about acquisition, and you don't necessarily have to have a lot of capital in order to execute on an acquisition. What you need to do is to understand who's the player that you're looking to acquire, what's important for him. In our case, we bought a company that is dealing with international payments, and they had two different departments, one that is doing international payments for real estate, and the other one that is doing it for e-commerce. And they saw that the real estate one is not really growing in the same, like in the type of like growth rate that they were aiming for. Now we started to basically bite out of their, and take customers from them using a partnership that we had with another partner. And then we just reached out to them and told them that, again, if we'll make this play and buy not the entire company, but a specific division. And again, for us, it was important because they have license. Yeah, so for us, it wasn't about the customer. It was more about the license that we don't have. And again, to have this license, it's like a year and a half work, and there's a lot of compliance around it. And again, it doesn't really make sense. And we were able to basically, again, create this win-win scenario that for them, they can then grow this real estate practice among our customer. And for us, it's, again, shorter the time to market. And it just allowed us to offer that service in a much more integrated, better way that we had before, than what we had before.
Perfect. One down, more to go. Okay. That concludes our panel, and we're going to move on to the second part of our evening. First of all, thank you very much for the time and the candid honesty.